Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce GTX 1660 Ti in Hogwarts Legacy. This one is the Zotac AMP edition of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers as usual, and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Ups GPU Z. We got 6GB of GDDR6 in this card, 1536 CUDA cores, and it released back in 2019. Over on the left, we're pairing it with a Ryzen 7 5800X 3D and 32GB of RAM to avoid CPU bottlenecks. This is DDR4 3600MHz CL14, and let's get right into it now, shall we? First up, let's go over the settings. I'm playing at 1080p first with TAA on high. We got no DLAA in this card, unfortunately. That's only for RTX stuff. That's the best AA option in this game. These look quite soft, but hey, it is what it is. We got some FSR2 support here as well, which I am going to test later in this video. And the settings over here are these. I'm actually going to disable depth of field. And over on the advanced settings, we're using the recommended settings preset, which is the medium settings preset without ray tracing. Oh, we can actually enable ray tracing with this card. Interesting. Let's move on to the game now. All right, this is beautiful. Let's start counting our FPS, getting 60s, 50s already. Near the water, it becomes really intensive, this game. So, yep, it's dropping from 60 FPS. But, you know, single-player title, I think it can be pretty enjoyable like this. And it looks great at the same time, although very, very soft because of that TAA. Now, let's get our broom up and running, and let's get inside of this forest area, where it should drop quite a bit. Yeah, okay, it's 50s. I guess we might actually get lower than 60 FPS on average here, and I mean, it's medium settings, so it's a bit expected, I guess, from a 1660 Ti. I was just expecting a little bit better, honestly, because when I started the game, the sun wasn't up in the sky and I was seeing like 10 more frames per second. But I waited a bit for the sun to go up and cast some shadows into the game world, and now it is a little bit more intensive for sure. 50s around here. What's interesting is this game recommends medium settings for a 1660 Ti, and it also recommends medium settings for a 3060 Ti. That's a huge discrepancy. The 3060 Ti was getting well above 100 frames per second on average at the same recommended settings as the 1660 Ti here, and this one is getting like half of the performance of the other card. Yeah, right here, it starts to drop once again into the 50s. Let's go down there now. Okay, not too bad though. It's definitely very playable, although it has those stuttering issues that this game is known for, or this engine is known for, I guess, because it's the Unreal 4 engine. Basically every single game that uses this engine stutters. It's terrible. I don't know. I don't know why developers keep using it, or why Epic can't seem to fix the freaking stuttering, but even Epic's own Fortnite with UE 5.1 right now has always stuttered. Like, it's insane. I don't understand. Anyway, you can definitely play very well here with the 1660 Ti, even though it is below 60 FPS sometimes in more intensive scenarios. So if you want to buy this with this card, I say go for it. Now, we got a trick up our sleeves. That's FSR2, and it looks really good in this game compared to the native resolution softness, you know, because of TAA. You just gotta increase the sharpness a little bit here. I like 0.35. I think it looks really good with FSR2 on quality at 1080p. Still using recommended settings over here, and let's see. Okay, that's a lot smoother. It's also a bit more pixelated of an image. You can tell some pixelation issues, especially whenever you are flying through bushes and trees. Yeah, that looks really noisy. But it looks slightly sharper than native resolution at the same time, when using TAA, of course. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess. I think I would stick to these settings because at least it gives you 60 plus basically all of the time. We were getting like 50 to 60 around here, and now we're getting like 70 to 80 most of the time. It also seems to be a little bit more stuttery, but that was maybe at the beginning, maybe applying some stuff. I don't know. But yeah, I like what I'm seeing here with FSR2 at 1080p resolution. If you have a 1080p monitor, especially a smaller one at like 24 inches, 22 inches, it should look quite good with FSR2 on quality, and it's gonna run buttery smooth almost, because it can't be buttery smooth because of the stuttering, you know. But yeah, it's the closest thing to buttery smooth that you can experience in this game, I guess. As you can see around here, things are pretty dang smooth. I like it. Over in the Dark Forest, it's getting like up to 90 frames, 90 plus even. It's really impressive how this is managing this game. This area isn't really that intensive though, so keep that in mind. And we should probably go to Hogsmeade, right? Now, Hogsmeade is more of a CPU-bound area. You can see the GPU utilization fluctuating a little bit there. That doesn't mean that it's a CPU bottleneck yet, because it's still above 90% most of the time. But things definitely become more CPU bound here, and that's why I don't usually test it in this area right here, because it ends up getting more FPS than in more GPU bound scenarios. And Hogwarts is the same thing. It's even more CPU bound than this over here, and it usually stutters even more than Hogsmeade, although the 5800X3D, with the 1660 Ti, of course, are doing a pretty decent job here. It's not stuttering too much in Hogsmeade. I was expecting more stuttering again. So it's pretty stable. If you have a slower CPU in this area, you're gonna see way lower FPS, and it's probably gonna be the most demanding area for you. Say you have like a Ryzen 5 3600, for example, you're gonna see some huge drops and stutters right here. But well, this is a GPU test, so I need to make things GPU bound, and it ends up not being as intensive in this area. I'm stopping it right there. I'm going to disable FSR now, set this back to TAA on high, and stick with medium settings, but now I'll increase the resolution to 1440p. Here we go. 2560 by 1440 is now applied. I needed to restart the game because it doesn't have a full screen mode. It's very annoying. I need to change the resolution in the desktop every single time, but let's see how it runs now. Okay, so 40s. Stabilizing though. That frame time is getting a little bit better. It's not as stuttery as when we started. You move the camera around, it starts stuttering more and being really inconsistent. Look at that. Look at the frame time graph. We're standing still. We're not even loading in anything. And just by doing this, it goes crazy. So the game still needs a ton of optimization, that's for sure. And now we're fully GPU bound as well, so it's not a CPU issue here. Yeah, it's just how the game runs. Again, guys, it's just a little bit of a mess sometimes, especially if you are below 60 frames per second. That's why I definitely recommend FSR at 1080p, so you never drop from 60 and you don't get those horrible stuttering issues that we're seeing right now in areas like Hogsmeade and Hogwarts. Yeah, those 1% lows are not looking good whatsoever. But in terms of average FPS and the overall experience, I can say that it's still going to be enjoyable with the 1660 Ti, even at 1440p medium settings, and that VRAM is still not maxed out either, so that's quite impressive to see in my opinion. Also, if you want to smooth out that frame time graph and make it a little bit more stable, you can lock it to like 30 frames per second. I think that would be a pretty good experience if you don't mind the lower frame rate, of course. Maybe 35 even. Just lock it to your minimum FPS and it will be a very, very stable experience with a flat frame time graph, basically, instead of it being all over the place. But you gotta lock it with something like Rivetuner Statistics Server, which I am using to display the information there in the on-screen display, or with Nvidia Control Panel. If you lock it inside of the game with the built-in cap, it's gonna stay the same. It's gonna stutter exactly the same, and it's just gonna be an even worse experience because you're gonna be locked to 30 with a lot of stuttering, and now we're getting 40s with a lot of stuttering. So of course this is a little bit better. So I'm gonna go in this direction, start counting the FPS again, and yeah, down there is going to become really, really GPU bound, one of the most GPU intensive areas that I've come across so far. Beautiful dragon right here. Here we go. So, oh boy, okay, it's dropping a lot, guys, into the lower 30s at times, so your best bet is to lock it to 30 FPS instead of 35, okay? To avoid the major stuttering that we're seeing sometimes. Yeah, 36 right here, 35, 34. I think that's the minimum. 33, not bad for what it is. You know, it's not really a very good 1440p card anymore, this GPU. Back in 2019 when it released, it used to be very, very capable at 1440p gaming. But of course, games evolve, kind of. I mean, they're not really looking that much more impressive than they did back in 2019, yet they are so much more intensive. But yeah, they do evolve, they have more things going on in the world and stuff, and FPS are lower, and this can't really keep up that well with the newer titles at this res. So let's stop it there for 1440p native. I'm gonna test it out with FSR2 on quality next, up that sharpness a little bit, and here we go. Oh my god, that is a huge difference in smoothness. Damn, okay. I like this. Alright, so if you're running a 1440p monitor with this card, I mean, you can still play games like this. Even if you don't like the 30 FPS experience, you got FSR, and it improves things by quite a lot. It's not going to be a 60 plus FPS experience, guys, unfortunately. Even on average, it won't really get 60, I guess, unless you stay in Hogsmeade in a GPU-bound scenario all of the time or on these open fields. But yeah, as soon as you see a little bit of vegetation, things will drop, as you can see, 58, 59. But it's not bad, especially compared to what we were seeing at native resolution. It's once again a major improvement in FPS. Now over here, 50s, 52. Is it dropping from 50 even? Like, I don't think it will drop from 50 frames per second. So you could lock it to 50 FPS and have a way smoother experience than native resolution locked to 30 FPS. Back in the days, I actually used to play with like 35 FPS locked, 45 FPS locked, 50 FPS locked at times, and let me tell you guys, once you get used to 50 FPS locked, it kind of starts feeling like 60 after like a few minutes of gameplay. I will say it's smooth enough for it to be perceived at 60 FPS after a while. Whereas like 30 frames, even if you get used to it, you can still see a lot of choppiness, you know? But yeah, also during fights, it doesn't really drop by all that much, as you can see, 52 there. It's nothing new, it's not inconsistent during fights, or it won't really stutter more than it does flying around, so that's why I'm not really testing a lot of fights in this video. What else is there to say? Nothing. It is pretty good at 1440p. Not bad whatsoever. Was expecting worse once again. Back to 1080p resolution, native with TAA on high, and using the high settings preset. Now this actually consumes a lot of VRAM, so I'm expecting it to stutter a lot more. But let's see. Can it be playable? Oh my, that's a big drop in performance compared to medium settings. Damn. Nothing major is happening and we're already getting 40s and even dropping into the 30s sometimes. That's a bit concerning. High settings is way more intensive than medium in this game. They also look a lot better than medium. You got some better dynamic shadows, better lighting and so on, and more detail in the ground as well. As you can see, like there is way more grass around than on medium settings. But I mean, yeah, with those FPS, I don't think I would play on high with the 1660 Ti. Same goes for the 1660 Super, by the way. If you have the Super version of the card, it performs pretty much the same as this one. It's within like 5% performance, usually slower performance, okay? Looking at the map from above, we're getting 60s and 70s. That is very nice. Oh, I can't go up anymore, guys. This is the maximum it allows us to go with this broom that we have. Let's go down there then, see some water effects. I'm curious to see how much it will drop near water. Oh, I haven't been here yet though. Okay, there we go. We unlocked this area as well for fast traveling. I don't like this area too much though. I don't see any rivers, any water, and it's not really that intensive. It's actually getting 60 FPS at the moment, so yeah. Okay, there we go. There's a little lake down there. Will it drop too much? No, it's pretty much the same thing. You know what? Apparently not all roads lead to Hogsmeade, so I'm just gonna teleport there. And here we are. Let's start counting the FPS. Of course, here it is way less intensive than in the forest for the GPU to handle. So we're seeing 60s and 70s. And you know, this is why I test in a lot of different scenarios. If you only see a benchmark run in Hogsmeade, you might think, well, near 60 FPS on average is quite good. But as we saw already, it drops into the 40s and even 30s in big forest areas. Now, I'm actually surprised to see that it doesn't drop from 50 FPS near this water right here, because usually it is really, really intensive. But it could also be because the sun is going down. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip the night. Oh no, you know what? Let's try it out during the night, because we got the Lumos stuff right here, which casts a lot of different shadows, as you can see, and it is way more intensive than during like the late evening, for example, which we were seeing previously. So now it's dropping into the 40s with a ton of stuttering issues again. I don't like it, guys. I would definitely avoid high settings with this GPU. Let's try it with some FSR2 on quality though. And now it is in the 60s, so we gained a good like 20 frames per second or so on average. That is very impressive, but still, with all of that stuttering compared to medium settings, I wouldn't do this. It's just not that enjoyable. If you want to lock the FPS to like 45 or even 40, I don't think it will drop using FSR2 on quality and 1080p. It's going to be pretty stable and pretty enjoyable. So if you don't mind playing with less than 60 FPS, this might be the way to go. But you really got to lock your FPS, otherwise... that bug with our cape happened again. What the hell is that? What the hell? I don't like it. It makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. I guess it's good if we fart a lot. If we use farts to boost the thing, it's better this way, because it can dissipate the smell faster. Maybe this is why it happens. I don't know. Anyways, guys. Anyways, it is pretty smooth inside of the dark forest, as you can see. It will drop into like the lower 40s, worst case scenario. So you can play like this, and again, if you don't mind locking the FPS to 45 or 40, this is probably the way to go. And lastly, 1440p TAA on high, no FSR using the high settings preset. This is gonna run terribly. This is bad. Oh my god, the stutters. The frame time graph is so bad. Look at that. Oh boy. Oh boy. Again, if you lock it to 30, it's probably gonna be fine, honestly. But it might drop in some scenarios into the 20s, and even if you lock the FPS and get a decent experience most of the time, dropping into the 20s is really terrible. You don't want that. Look at this, near the water. Oh boy, yeah, 30 FPS there. Okay, I'm surprised it's not dropping more. Again, the 1660 Ti doesn't seem to be too affected by the water in this game, which is very interesting. In contrast, the 580, RX 580, got completely wrecked near water. It's just, it drops the FPS by half or so. Okay, now it's dropping. Yeah, 27 is pretty terrible. This is not the way to play this game, my friends. 29 right there. Come on, get out, please. I just want to get out of here. I can't. Oh my god, it's so clunky at times. Not as clunky as the king of clunkiness PUBG, but still. We gotta try out some FSR, alright? So quality. Can we please get 30 plus all of the time? I think that should be possible. Yeah, alright. It's getting around the same FPS as 1440p native res, I guess. And near the water, not too much of a problem, as you can see. Can we go there, please? There we go. 41, 40. Yeah, it's not gonna drop near water, I guess. And we should try it out in that super intensive area down there, though. Can we open this? Oh, yes, thank you very much. All right, lower 40s already. Can we get our broom out? Yes, we can. Let's see it down here. Oh, boy. Okay, this is where it's gonna drop the most, I think. 40 FPS, 41. Well, actually... Again, I thought it was going to be worse. Not bad, 1660 Ti. You can lock the FPS to 30 using FSR Quality and 1440p, and it will look really good, and it will play alright-ish. Again, the major frame time spikes, major stuttering will still be there even if you lock the FPS. It just takes care of these smaller fluctuations that you see there in the frame time graph, which can be pretty annoying and kind of immersion breaking because everything gets a bit too choppy basically. But yeah, I guess that's been it for this one, my friends. The 1660 Ti definitely impresses with its 6 gigabytes of VRAM. Even at 1440p it can be playable. Unfortunately, if you want 60 plus all of the time, you actually gotta play at low settings in 1080p native. I wouldn't do that because it starts looking really bad. Or with FSR Quality and 1080p medium, which can look a bit better than native resolution, but if you are prone to noticing a lot of the pixelation issues, or if you have a bigger monitor, it can also look worse. But overall, it is playable on the 1660 Ti, and you should definitely pick up the game if you have a GPU like the 1660 Ti or 1660 Super. Thanks very much for watching. Catch you guys in the next one very soon. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.